Hi class, we're back to read chapter 21 of Because of Winn-Dixie. This is how far in the book we are. This is how much we've read. This is how much we have left to read. So we're making really good progress. And yesterday we read all about how Opal, the main character, and Gloria Dump are going to plan a party for all of the characters in our book to come to. And yeah, that's pretty much what we read about yesterday. So let's get started on chapter 21 for today. After I got Otis convinced to come to the party, the rest of getting ready was easy and fun. Me and Gloria decided to have a party at night when it would be cooler. And the afternoon before, we worked in Gloria's kitchen and made egg salad sandwiches. We cut them up into triangles and cut off the crusts and put little toothpicks with frilly tops on them. Winn-Dixie sat in the kitchen and looked at us the whole time. He kept on wagging his tail. That's what my dog does when I'm cooking too. He wants some of my food. This dog thinks that we made these sandwiches for him, said Gloria Dump. Winn-Dixie showed Gloria all his teeth. These ain't for you, she told him. But when she thought I wasn't looking, she gave Winn-Dixie an egg salad sandwich without the toothpick. We also made punch. We mixed together orange juice and grapefruit juice and soda into a big bowl. Gloria called it Dump Punch. She said that she was world famous for it, but I had never heard of it before. The last thing we did was decorate the yard all up. I strung pink and orange and yellow crepe paper in the trees to make it look fancy. We also filled up paper bags with sand and put candles in them, and right before it was time for the party to start, I went around and lit all the candles. It turned Gloria's yard into a fairyland. Said Gloria Dump, looking around. Even somebody with bad eyes can tell that it looks great. It did look pretty. It looked so pretty that it made my heart feel funny, all swollen and full. And I wished desperately that I knew where my mama was so that she could come to the party too. Miss Franny Block was the first person to arrive. She was wearing a pretty green dress and it was all shiny and shimmery. And she had on high-heeled shoes that made her wobble back and forth when she walked. Even when she was standing still, she kind of swayed back and forth like she was standing on a boat. She was carrying a big glass bowl full of litmus lozenges. I brought a little after-dinner treat, she said, handing the bowl to me. Well, thank you, I said. I put the bowl on the table next to the egg salad sandwiches and the punch. Then I introduced Miss Franny to Gloria. They shook hands and said polite things to each other. Then Sweetie Pie's mother came by with Sweetie Pie. Sweetie Pie had a whole handful of pictures of dogs that she had cut out of magazines. It's to help you with your theme, she said. You can use them to decorate. I brung tape, too. And she started going around taping the pictures of the dogs to the trees and to the chairs and the table. She ain't talked about nothing but this party all day long, said her mother. Can you walk her home when it's over? I promised that I would, and then I introduced Sweetie Pie to Miss Franny and to Gloria, and right after that, the preacher showed up. He was wearing a coat and tie and looked really serious. He shook Gloria Dump's hand and Miss Franny Block's hand and said how pleased he was to meet them both, and how he had heard nothing but good things about both of them. He patted Sweetie Pie on the head and said it was good to see her outside of church. And the whole time, Winn-Dixie was standing right in the middle of everybody, wagging his tail so hard that I thought for sure he would knock Miss Franny right off her high heels. Amanda Wilkinson came, and she had her blonde hair all curled up. She looked shy, but not as mean as usual. And I stood real close to her and introduced her to Gloria Dump. I was surprised at how glad I was to see her. Oh, to see Amanda. And I wanted to tell her that I knew about Carson. I wanted to tell her that I understood about losing people. But I didn't say anything. I was just really nice. We were all standing around smiling at one another and acting kind of nervous when a screechy voice said, Gertrude is a pretty bird. Winn-Dixie's ears went straight up on his head and he barked once and looked around. I looked too, but I didn't see Gertrude or Otis. "I'll be right back," I said to everybody. Me and Winn-Dixie went running around to the front of the house. Sure enough, standing there on the sidewalk was Otis. He had his guitar on his back and Gertrude on his shoulder, and in his hands he was holding the biggest jar of pickles I had ever seen in my life. "Otis," I said to him, "come on around back. That's where the party is." "Oh," he said, but he didn't move. He just stood there holding on to his jar of pickles. "Dog!" screeched Gertrude. She flew off of Otis's shoulder and landed on Winn-Dixie's head. "It's all right, Otis," I told him. "It's just a few people, hardly any people at all." "Oh," said Otis again. He looked around like he was lost. Then he held up the jar of pickles. "I brought pickles," he said. "I saw them," I said. "It's just exactly what we needed. That will go perfect with the egg salad sandwiches." I talked to him really soft and gentle and low, like he was a wild animal that I was trying to get to take food out of my hand. He took one tiny step forward. "Come on," I whispered. I started walking and Winn-Dixie followed me, and when I turned around, I saw that Otis was following me too. Otis is seeming kind of nervous, huh? Like maybe he's never gone to a party before. Maybe he's just scared there's going to be a lot of people there. Okay, chapter 22. Otis followed me all the way back into the backyard, where the party was. Before he could run away, I introduced him to the preacher. "Daddy," I said, "this is Otis. He's the one who runs Gertrude's Pets. He's the one who plays the guitar so good." "How do you do?" said the preacher. He stuck his hand out to Otis, and Otis stood there and shuffled his big jar of pickles back and forth, trying to free up his hand to offer back to shake the preacher's hand. Finally, he ended up bending over and setting the jar on the ground, but when he did that, his guitar slid forward and hit him in the head. Sweetie Pie laughed and pointed at him like he was doing the whole thing on purpose just to make her laugh. "Ouch," said Otis. He stood back and took the guitar off his shoulder. He put it down on the ground, next to the jar of pickles. Then he wiped his hand on his pants and stuck it out to the preacher, who took it and said, "It sure is my pleasure to shake your hand." "Thank you," said Otis. "I brought pickles." "I noticed," said the preacher. After the preacher and Otis were done shaking hands, I introduced Otis to Miss Franny Block and to Amanda. Then I introduced him to Gloria Dump. Gloria took his hand and smiled at him, and Otis looked right in her eyes and smiled back. He smiled so big. "I brought pickles for your party," Otis told her. "I am so glad you did," she said. "It just ain't a party without pickles." Otis looked down at his big jar of pickles. His face was all red. "Opal," said Gloria, "when are them boys getting here?" "I don't know," I said. I shrugged. I told them what time we were starting. What I didn't tell her was that they probably weren't coming because they were afraid to go to a party at a witch's house. "Well," said Gloria, "we got egg salad sandwiches, we got dump punch, we got pickles, we got dog pictures, we got litmus lozenges, and we got a preacher who can bless this party for us." Gloria Dump looked over at the preacher. He nodded his head at Gloria and cleared his throat and said, "Dear God, thank you for warm summer nights and candlelight and good food. But thank you most of all for friends. We appreciate the complicated and wonderful gift that you give us in each other. We appreciate the task you put before us of loving each other the best that we can. Amen." "Amen," said Gloria Dump. "Amen," I whispered. "Gertrude," croaked Gertrude. "Are we fixin' to eat now?" Sweetie Pie asked. "Shh," said Amanda. Winn-Dixie sneezed. There was a far-off rumble of thunder. At first, I thought that it was Winn-Dixie's stomach growling. "It ain't supposed to rain," said Gloria Dump. "They didn't predict no rain." "This dress is silk," said Miss Franny Block. "I cannot get it wet." "Maybe we should go inside," said Amanda. The preacher looked up at the sky, and just then the rain came pouring down. All right. Next time we will read chapter 23. And you've got some questions to answer about what we read today. And we'll be back next time. Bye, guys.